Hey guys, welcome back! Next year, Abadía del Crimen, or the Abbey of Crime, will be 30 years old. However, this amazing gem from the golden age of Spanish video game development must be remembered every single year. So, let's take a look at one of the greatest arcade adventures ever made for the most popular home computers of the second half of the 80s. Come on!
The title, The Name of the Rose, won't say much to a younger audience, but I can say that it was a 1980s novel from Italian author Umberto Eco that was 6 years later adapted to cinema by the hands of Jean-Jacques Hano and starred by the amazing Sean Connery. Also, the movie poster was drawn by the gifted Drew Struzan, responsible for others like, for example, from the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises. A year later, by the end of 1987, the 23 years old Paco Menendez, along with Opera Soft, sent a request to the author of this novel to secure the rights for the name for their latest video game inspired by it. Just like David Ward from Ocean Software once stated, the key to sell games is to make them identifiable to the public. But sadly, there was no response from Echo, and consequently, the title of this game was changed to Abadía del Crimen. As said before, this fantastic Spanish gem, published by Opera Soft, came from Paco Menendez, a genius programmer that a year before also left his mark in Surf Red, another Spanish marvel that was huge on the ZX Spectrum and kept me glued to my monochromatic screen for far too long. So Paco Menendez, along with his buddy Juan Del Can, started working together in '84 in the game Fred, the prequel to Surf Red, being both well received all over Europe. La Abadia recreates in a masterful manner the novel by Umberto Eco, pushing the Amstrad CPC to its limits, and for the ZX Spectrum was only available for 128K machines like the ones shown in one of my latest episodes. So in this game we control Fray Guillermo de Ockham, not William of Baskerville like in the novel due to the reason stated above, and along with his apprentice Atso, that can also be controlled by the player, must investigate a series of murders that took place in the Abbey. Right at the start, Fray Guillermo is welcomed by the abbot that starts explaining that a monk has disappeared. There's also certain rules that must be followed, like attending religious services and meals, and at night remain in their chambers whilst the investigation is underway. Something similar was already seen in The Great Escape from Denton Designs that I've already reviewed in the past. So we, the player, must try to solve this mystery during 7 days in this beautiful and masterfully designed isometric abbey, compliments of Juan Del Can, that by that time was a student of architecture and also drawn the cover for the game. The freedom is almost unlimited, so when we're not eating or praying, we must investigate, approaching other monks that will give us valuable clues of what's going on and who or what is responsible for all those deaths, and to successfully decipher this mystery, we must discover 5 objects in a specific day and in the correct order. If the rules of the Abbey are disobeyed, then the player's obsequium or obedience level, located at the bottom right of the screen, will drop. Try to maintain this level away from 0, otherwise you'll be expelled from the Abbey. The artificial intelligence of the other monks is really something to behold, as, and according to our behavior, they will help us, hunt us down, and even retrieve the objects that we so arduously managed to attain. Back then I was more into English and French languages than Spanish, so I found Abadia to be a tad difficult to advance, much more than the Great Escape that I've mentioned before, but I also found La Abadía del Crimen much more terrifying when we're trying to reach the library at night and the abbot is wandering around in the dark. I always avoided to play this game at night. This one was the closest we could get to a survival horror game, an astonishing accomplishment for the time. I believe that if Paco Menendez had attained the rights for the name of Echo's novel, this game would have reached the stars and be critically acclaimed across Europe and beyond, but unfortunately failed to grab commercial success, cause it was only available in Spanish language and had an official and exclusive Spanish release. Even so, it would eventually cross the border and reach Portuguese territory, cause by the end of the 80s, Portugal wasn't yet legally protecting the intellectual properties of software creators, so it was completely normal to get my hands in titles that wasn't supposed to be available in this little corner of Europe. I recall the first time I had a glimpse at this phenomenal masterpiece. It was through Micro-Obi's cover tape 44 from issue 215, published in November of '91. Yes, that's right! By then, I had already embraced the 16-bit technology, exploring the amazing capabilities of the Amiga 500, but even so, from time to time, I would try out Specky's novelties, and I simply had to try this 128K title that was only available for 8-bit machines and was praised all over the Spanish press. So the first time I loaded it, I was immediately blown away by the beauty of its graphics, the amount of detail, and its amazing plot. I needed to grab the complete version ASAP. I also recall trying to play the DOS version back then, but by the time I tried to reach the church, a digitized voice calling me pirate would sound through the PC speaker, ending the game right after. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to grab an original copy of the game. Have you seen its prices on eBay? Holy crap! Through the years, there has been some improvements to the original game, like the addition of English translations, so that players not familiar with the Spanish language could also experience the Abbey of Crime. The game achieved a huge cult following in Spain, and I must highlight the 2001 adaptation for DOS by Antonio Gonzalez, with improved 256 VGA color graphics that 3 years later ended up receiving a much anticipated 32-bit release for Windows that, besides those gorgeous graphics, incorporated also remastered sound and music, and was even subject of a news report on national TV.
El vertiginoso mundo de la informática convierte en obsoleto lo de ayer mismo, pero no necesariamente lo relega al olvido. Hay quien venera creaciones antiguas hasta el punto de respetarlas como legendarias y restaurarlas como si fueran obras de arte.
A more recent homage to this magnificent piece of programming is a recently released PC, Mac and Linux remake, La Abadía del Crimen Extensum. This beautiful tribute by Manuel Pazos and Daniel Selemin took 2 years from their free time to conclude, offering fluid animations, enhanced music. You've been listening to the soundtrack and it is included in the download, and is graphically gorgeous. Everyone who played the original must also play this reinvention of the classic. It's also in English language and completely free to play. Now, there's no excuse. Every fan of the genre must experience this plot filled with tension and mystery. To conclude this review or celebration of this amazing hidden gem from the golden age of Spanish software, here's a curious comment from Paco Menendez in an interview to Micro-Obi. I have no idea what's happening in the video game panorama. I just love making games, not playing them. Francisco Menendez Gonzalez, known in the industry as Paco Menendez, committed suicide in 1999 with only 34 years old, and his work was hailed in Commandos 2 by Gonzalo Suarez, a fellow Spanish programmer and colleague back in the OperaSoft days. He was surely a huge inspiration for many Spanish young boys that aspire to become, somehow, connected to the video game industry in the future. So guys, hope you've enjoyed my look back at one of the greatest titles from the awesome home computer era, back from the second half of the 80s. Have you played the Amstrad original or any other port? Have you already tried the recent Extensum remake? Tell me everything in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to It's a Pixel Thing. Meanwhile, check my other videos available on my channel, like for instance the celebration of the 30 years of the ZX Spectrum 128K and the origins of the personal computer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.